My name is Dr. Lauren Ellis, and 3 days before Christmas, I was told not to come home. I had just returned from a grueling hospital shift, weary but content, eyeing the packed bag by my door, gifts wrapped, rosemary stuffing ingredients tucked neatly away, though no one ever remembered I was the one who made it. I even splurged on a new sweater, forest green, soft and festive without trying too hard, just enough. When my phone lit up with Blake's name, I assumed it was the usual, carpool logistics or a request for extra napkins. Instead, his voice was hesitant, almost rehearsed. Hey, so Savannah's coming this year, right? She's big on energy, like the vibe of a room, and with your work, sometimes it can feel heavy. For her sake, maybe sit this one out. Nothing personal. Heavy, not you're a geriatric doctor who helps people die with dignity, just heavy, like a damp towel ruining his carefully curated Instagram aesthetic. I didn't argue. An hour later, my mother called. Her tone was soft, almost soothing, until you heard the edges. Honey, we just want things to be easy. Savannah's sensitive, and if you come, it could confuse her. Honestly, we might not answer the door. That was when it hit me. I wasn't just excluded, I was unwanted. I didn't cry, didn't plead, I simply said, okay, hung up, and opened my banking app. Mortgage payment? Cancelled. Car loan top-up? Frozen. Emergency fund? Locked. I stopped being their invisible backbone. No announcement. No social media post, just silence. For once, that silence belonged to me. I used to think my family's treatment was normal, that I was too serious, too focused, too much. I was the oldest, the trial run, as Dad once joked while handing Blake the bigger slice of cake. Blake, golden boy, miracle child, effortless charmer, I was simply first. When he scribbled permanent marker across the living room wall, it was expressive. When I broke a bowl, it was careless. His participation ribbon lived on the fridge for a week. My straight A's were quietly filed away. I even left my perfect GPA letter on the counter once, desperate for someone to notice. No one did. When I got into medical school on my first try, my mom's only response was, "Wow, that's intense. Be careful not to burn out." But when Blake dropped out, for the third time, they threw him a party, balloons, cake, a framed picture of him holding a paintbrush, as if he'd cured cancer. I kept going anyway. Early graduation, licensing, patients whose hands I held at the end of their lives. At home, I gave just as quietly, fixing plumbing, paying off repair bills, bailing Blake out after his latest failed gig, always without recognition, always without thanks. Because in their eyes, Blake was the star, and I was reliable background noise, the one who never complained, until I finally did. That night, something shifted, not rage, but clarity. I pulled the plug on every quiet sacrifice, the monthly $800 mortgage top-up, the secret rainy day account, the loans Blake never repaid, gone. They wouldn't notice right away. That's the curse of being useful. Only absence reveals your worth. Christmas came and went. I spent it alone, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of rosemary. No tears, no tree, no unwrapped gifts, just stillness. And there was power in that stillness. The next day, my phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from my mother, followed by a text. "Can you answer? You've done enough damage already." My chest tightened. Then another call, this time from my dad's sister, the only one who still wrote me birthday cards. I answered. "What happened yesterday?" she asked gently. "They're saying you ruined Christmas, but you weren't even there." I blinked. I ruined it. She hesitated, then explained. Something had happened with Blake's girlfriend, Savannah. She'd left early. There was yelling. My name came up. That was all Aunt Claire knew, but it was enough. Later that evening, she called again with more details. Savannah had seen a photo of me in their living room, just an old snapshot from a birthday years ago, and recognized me. "You saved my grandmother," she'd said. "You're Dr. Lauren Ellis." The room went silent. What happened next wasn't clear, only that Savannah asked if I was the sister they always talked about. Whatever she heard made her quietly gather her things and leave. I didn't need the full story. I could imagine it. The same tired jokes, how I lived in hospitals, made everything too serious, how I was hard to love, maybe even Blake's cruel one-liner, "Lauren is basically death in a pantsuit." None of it new, except this time, someone else heard, someone who hadn't grown up mistaking cruelty for family humor, someone who remembered the doctor who stayed when everyone else gave up, someone who saw me, without needing to be told how. That's how I ruined Christmas, by not showing up to keep the illusion intact, by refusing to smile while they carved me into a cautionary tale, by being remembered unexpectedly, not as their burden, but as someone's hope. 2 days later, my mother called. She skipped the greeting, her voice already sharp. I don't know what you said to her, but now your brother is a mess. Savannah blocked his number, she won't speak to him, and she posted something online about being treated like garbage by the family of a woman she admires. I heard glass clinking in the background, kitchen pacing, maybe a crisis glass of wine. She tagged your photo, she added, as though I'd committed a crime. I stayed silent, let her ramble until she got to the point. We need you to talk to her, just clarify she misunderstood, that there was no bad intention. Of course, the family's PR department, damage control for the same people who had uninvited me. She's ruining your brother's future, my mom pressed, her tone softening. His name is being dragged in those art circles she's part of, you know, all that New York stuff. He's being blacklisted. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because of the absurdity. They'd spent decades erasing me, and now the consequences of that invisibility were finally reaching something they cared about, their image. I didn't argue, I just said, I'll think about it. But I didn't. Instead, I opened Savannah's post. It wasn't angry, not even dramatic, just honest. She wrote about the doctor who had saved her grandmother, about walking into a family celebration expecting warmth, and instead hearing that same woman ridiculed. She wrote about her shock, that someone so kind and present could be dismissed so casually by her own family. She didn't name names, she didn't need to. One line stood out, some people hide cruelty behind polite smiles and holiday lights, but the moment I saw that photo, I remembered what real kindness looks like, and it wasn't anyone sitting at that table. It spread quickly, people shared it, commented, tagged others, and for the first time, none of those voices were calling me heavy or difficult, they were saying I mattered. That night, just before bed, my phone buzzed again, a voicemail, not from my parents, not from Blake, not from my father who only ever called when he forgot his email password. It was from Savannah. Her voice was softer than I expected, not polished, not airy, real. Hi, I'm so sorry to reach out like this. I got your number from your aunt. I hope that's okay. I needed to say something. A pause, a long one. I didn't know. I didn't really know who you were, but I recognized your photo. You treated my grandmother years ago. She still talks about you. She says, you changed everything. You didn't give up when others did. You made her feel like she mattered. Another pause. This time, her voice cracked. I'm sorry for what happened. I had no idea. I couldn't sit there and pretend, so I left. That was it. I listened twice, then again, and I cried, not because I was sad, but because for the first time in years, someone truly saw me, not through the family filter of too serious or too intense, not as the shadow behind the golden child, just me. Savannah didn't ask for coffee, she didn't try to fix what wasn't hers to fix, she simply told the truth, and somehow, that healed more than 1,000 empty apologies ever could. 3 days later, a small package arrived, a handwritten letter, ink smudged at the edges. Savannah wrote about her grandmother, still doing yoga, still walking to the farmer's market, still telling the story of the young doctor who said, "You're not done yet." She thanked me, not just for saving a life, but for showing her what strength looked like. I framed the letter and hung it beside my desk, the desk where I finish patient notes every night. For the first time in years, I didn't feel I had to prove anything, not to them, not to anyone. Just when I thought the dust had settled, my inbox lit up. Subject line, "Let's reset things." It was signed by all three of them, my mother, my father, and Blake, a united front, as if they were submitting a group project. The tone was exactly what I expected from people who believed apologies were bargaining chips. They didn't say sorry, not really. Instead, they wrote that emotions had run high, and they regretted how things may have been perceived, which is family code for, we still think we're right, but now we're scared of the fallout. They suggested brunch, neutral ground, open-hearted discussion, they called it. And then, tucked neatly into the fourth paragraph, was the real ask. They wanted me to reach out to Savannah, to ask her to take down her post. There it was, the real reason for the sudden olive branch, not healing, not reconciliation, just damage control. They wanted me to be the mop that cleaned up their mess. I didn't reply. The next morning, they escalated. My father called one of my hospital administrators, someone he'd met once at a charity gala, and claimed I'd been emotionally unstable. He framed it as concern. Of course, gaslighting, wrapped in parental worry. It didn't work. The administrator called me immediately, apologized, and reassured me that I had nothing to worry about. One bridge, burned. Then came the group text to extended family, polished half-truths, no mention of me being excluded, no mention of the jokes at my expense. Just, she's tearing the family apart. We're worried about her mental state. 2 cousins I hadn't heard from in years reached out. One even sent me a voucher for a yoga retreat, just in case you're going through something. And then, their last play, a visit. It was a quiet Sunday when I heard the knock. Through the peephole, my parents, Blake. I opened the door but didn't step aside. "We just want to talk," my mom said, voice soft as honey. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, and for the first time in my life, I saw the situation clearly. They weren't here for me. They were here for the version of me who cleaned up, paid up, and never spoke up. That version no longer lived here. They waited, hoping I'd fold like always, hoping I'd invite them in, hoping I'd make it easy. I didn't. After a long silence, I said the only word that mattered. No. And I closed the door. No guilt, no second guessing, just quiet certainty. I made myself tea, sat at my desk, and looked at Savannah's letter framed on the wall. Proof that being seen doesn't come from shrinking or from sacrifice, it comes from living as yourself, fully. I thought about the years I'd spent trying to earn the love of a family who only measured me against the golden child. I realized, finally, I was never meant to make them comfortable. I was meant to heal, to hold hands on the edge of goodbye, to listen when others turned away, to matter where it mattered most. And I had. I didn't save lives for applause. I didn't cancel payments for revenge. I didn't walk away to punish them. I walked away because I finally saw the truth. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There is power in silence, in refusing to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. There is strength in setting boundaries and keeping them, and there is peace in knowing your worth does not require a family vote. So, to anyone who has ever been told you are too much, too serious, too inconvenient, you are not too much. You are not the problem. And you never needed to shrink to fit inside someone else's story. Write your own. Because sometimes the quietest stories carry the loudest truths, and sometimes, not showing up is the bravest thing you can do.